back, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you're all doing well and blessed beyond measure. Before I start this upload, I want to remind everyone this is the email I received that I'm very unsure about. It's very disturbing, in my mind anyway. I just don't know quite what to make of it. I'm definitely going to need some opinions from y'all on this one. I don't even really know what to say, so I'm going to go ahead and just get into the encounter. Grab a drink, lock your doors and windows, hit the lights, and let's get started. I would like to remain anonymous on this. You can refer to me as D to keep down any confusion. I've done a lot of different work over the years. Construction, industrial maintenance, electrical work, you name it, and I've probably dabbled in it at some point in my life. I could never be the type of person to sit in an office or stay at any job for a long period of time. I only take jobs that keep me moving. It was 2019 and I was working as an independent contractor. I was doing home repairs and remodels for private clients. Most of my jobs were in backwood, rural areas, places where cell service was spotty and the nearest neighbor was a mile down the road. People living in these situations like this was nothing new to me. I grew up in a rural part of Tennessee, so maybe that's why places like that didn't bother me. It actually makes me comfortable because it felt like home. I would much rather work in places like this than in the concrete jungles. But the job I'm going to tell you about in this story is a job I wish I had skipped on. But even more so now than then, money is tight. Things are expensive. You have to take every penny you can get. The job came through a local hardware store where I left my number on a bulletin board. An older woman on a reservation that will not be named here needed some work done on her home, fixing the siding, checking for leaks in the roof, reinforcing her porch. It was a good-paying gig, so I took it without any hesitation. It seemed easy enough. Easy money. When I got there, the woman, I'll just call her Margaret, she met me at the door. She was a very small and petite lady, maybe in her 70s. She had stern eyes and a quiet way about her. After showing me around, she offered me some tea. I went inside while she sat across me from the table. After talking for about 20 minutes, she just looked at me and asked me a question that I did not know how to take. I can't remember what exactly we were talking about, but it got quiet for just a few seconds, and that's when she asked if I believed in werewolves. Obviously, this made me quite uncomfortable and a bit worried. She didn't strike me as a person dealing with maybe some mental issues, but a question like that to a person that's practically a stranger is not a normal thing to do. I didn't know what to say. I just let out a fake laugh, thinking she was joking, hoping she was joking. But she didn't smile. She just sit there studying me. That's when I realized that she wasn't kidding. So I cleared my throat and just said, "No, not really. Why do you ask?" She started tapping her fingers on the table, then she started looking out the window. She said they're not like the ones in the movies. They don't change under a full moon. They're always watching us. My skin crawled, and I really wanted to just leave right then and there. I thought I was dealing with, and don't take this personally or the wrong way, I don't know how to say it, a crazy person. I thought about it for a second, and I still didn't really know what to say here. I started thinking maybe it was an old legend around, or a bit of a local superstition. So I just nodded and let her continue talking. She told me that in their beliefs, the real werewolves weren't hairy, snarling beasts like Hollywood made them out to be. They were human-shaped, their bodies painted white. She described them as having some sort of black symbols scrolled across their faces and their body. She referred to them as the marked ones. She said they're not just beasts, they're a warning. Now I was a bit intrigued, so I asked, a warning for what? She shook her head and stared out the window again and told me, if I see them, then it's already too late. I felt a chill run from my head to my toes. I was definitely done with that conversation, so I didn't ask any more questions. I finished my tea quickly, and I thanked her and went back outside to get to work. She never mentioned this again, and for 2 days the job went pretty well. I was getting close to being done, but on the 3rd day something happened. I was working on the porch when I noticed someone moving out of the corner of my eye out near the tree line. The property backed up to some pretty thick woods, and standing just inside the trees was this person. From the distance I was, it looked like a person that was just wearing white clothing. I stopped what I was working on and walked across the porch to the other side to get a little closer. And I realized that it wasn't clothing, it was skin. Pale white skin, and I could see these black symbols painted across the face and the chest. This person was standing still. Their body wasn't shifting at all. I didn't even see them breathing. They weren't even blinking. I turned around to grab my phone, and when I turned back around, the person was gone. I hadn't been sleeping very well, and I was pretty exhausted, so I just told myself I had misidentified this person. It was probably just someone living close by and being nosy about what I was doing, and I was letting this old woman's stories get to my head. But I definitely started working a bit faster so I could finish this job and get out of there. By the time I finished that day and packed up, the sun was almost completely gone. I loaded all my tools into my truck and went to the front door to tell her I would be back in the morning. I would be finished completely in just a couple more hours. Before I could even knock on her door, I saw another one of those white figures. It was standing behind her house, leaning halfway around the corner, peeking out at me. Same white skin, same black markings, but this one was moving. He turned his head and very slowly and looked directly at me. I backed away from the door and practically run to my truck. I didn't even tell Margaret I was leaving. I tried to sleep that night, but I couldn't. I kept thinking about her story she told me and then seeing those two figures watching me. I kind of felt like she was playing a prank on me or setting me up in some sick joke, but that just didn't feel right, and I should have just quit the job. I should have called her and told her that I wasn't coming back, but I didn't do that. I was too damn stubborn, not to mention I was too broke, and I needed some money. I overslept big time when I finally did go to sleep. I was cooked. I woke up late in the afternoon, so I headed out to Margaret's and started trying to finish this job. I was finishing up finally, but it was a lot later than it should have been. I didn't want to be stuck out there again at sunset, but surprise, surprise, the sun was already setting. I wasn't about to come back again, so I had my truck and pointed the headlights so I could see what I was doing to finish the siding. I was hammering the last couple nails into the siding, and I started hearing a deep growl coming from around the back of the house. I could tell it wasn't a dog or a coyote. This was way too deep and loud for that. This was coming from a very big animal. I looked around the side of the house expecting to see one of those white painted figures, but it wasn't this time. This was something a lot bigger. It looked like a giant gray wolf, and it was standing on two legs. It was hunched over with a big long patch of hair on the back of its neck and around the shoulder blades. The shoulders were nearly as wide as a door frame. The hair covered its entire body except for the face. The face had a very slight human look to it, but it had a canine snout, and I could see a mouthful of yellow, uneven canine teeth. It was just standing there, looking at me. It had this cold, dead, soulless expression. Then from behind it, in the trees, there was more movement. The marked ones, as Margaret called them, were there standing behind the creature perfectly still, and they were watching me as well. In my mind, I was starting to feel like I understood what was happening here. I felt these thoughts. I don't know how else to say that, but even though it's insane, but I had an overwhelming understanding that they had brought me here intentionally. I felt like they had chosen me for some reason. That's when the Dogman creature moved. It launched itself forward, not fully, but enough to make me run. It did a bluff charge that reminded me of what a bear would do. I headed for my truck, got in, and as soon as I slammed the door, this thing's claws scraped against the outside of the truck. I didn't even know it was that close behind me. It wasn't making a sound. I threw the truck in reverse and floored it, headed backwards onto the main road. But that Dogman thing did not give up and stay behind. It continued to chase my truck. It was so big I could almost hear its feet pounding on the road, and I looked in my mirror and it was gaining on me, getting closer. My speedometer hit 50, then 60, and it was still behind me. I hit 70 and finally started putting some distance between us, and as I was pulling away, it suddenly just stopped. It gave up, and I saw it in the mirror just standing there, motionless in the middle of the road. And behind it, lining the roadside on both sides of the road, were those marked ones. I barely slept for weeks after that. And I obviously never went back to the house, even though I left a lot of my tools and belongings there, and I never finished the job. I never called Margaret back. I was too afraid she would tell me something that I did not want to hear. I just couldn't let all this go. So I started researching and digging through forums and old stories, anything I could find out about the marked ones. Surprise, surprise, I found nothing. No legends, no history, no proof that they existed, except for what I saw with my own eyes. And the one thing I knew, they wasn't just there to watch that Dogman chase me. If you want my opinion, I feel very confident that they were controlling it. That's the only encounter with anything unexplainable I've ever had, and I'm not upset about that at all. This is the first time I've ever spoke about this to anyone, and I just want to know if anyone else has any information about this. I don't understand. And if you don't believe me, I completely understand that. Just do me a favor and don't say anything. Just pretend like I never sent this. And it's not because your words will hurt my feelings, because that is definitely not going to happen. I could care less, to be honest. I just think it's pointless for you to call me crazy or you're a liar when it doesn't do either of us any good. All I'm looking for is legitimate answers or any information that could help me figure out what exactly happened out there. I wondered in the beginning if the old lady had done all this, just to mess with an outsider. Now the marked ones that she called them that could have easily set me up. But that doesn't explain the 8-foot-tall walking wolf that chased me down the road at 60 miles an hour on 2 legs. I feel like the old lady called me there and set me up. Why else would she have brought up the conversation? Who does that? Who just openly has a conversation about werewolves? I personally believe it was some sort of satanic cult, maybe. I have no definitive answers. I will cut this story here, as that's pretty much all that happened. Again, please, if you know anything, or even if you've heard a story like this before, let me know where you heard it, 'cause I would like to listen. Thanks in advance for any information. D. Well, legends, I told you this was a wild one. I don't know what to think. I've read over this thing at least a dozen times, and I only become more and more confused. Now, I take everyone's encounter story as truth unless it's just obviously made up. You can tell when they're that fake. I have racked my brain for days now, even debating whether I should upload this or not. I have dug around in my own time trying to find something online about marked ones or anything that is slightly related to this encounter. Just like D, I've found nothing. Nothing even close to this. So I'm relying on all of you. I'm hoping that you can get some answers for this guy. Well, at this point, not only him, but me as well. I'm just lost on this one, guys. I don't know. Before I end this upload, I want to thank you for sending this encounter, and I just want to say, buddy, I hope someone out there has some information for you. I have no idea what happened out there. Maybe someone else will know something. I don't know. Also, I want to thank all y'all for listening, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, as it helps me out tremendously. I have high hopes that you guys will maybe have some information related to this. If not, then I'm at a loss. I've done all I can. I've put the story out there. Now that's all I can do to help. Well, that's going to do it, y'all. Until next time, my friends, watch over your loved ones. Keep your head on a swivel. And as always, good night.
Whoa!